Hello everybody, it's LowTech Mom. How's everybody doing? Good? Alright, so I was doing a live earlier today and I was doing it while I was walking the dog, and I think that's one of the things I need to get better at doing is like trying not to multitask all day long. And I think as parents we're often forced to do that. You know, I was doing a Facebook Live and walking the dog, and that's one of the things I want to talk about today in this Facebook Live is being intentional. And again, as I've pointed out before, and I will point out again, definitely a hypocrite. As I'm currently picking my kids up from school and doing the Facebook Live. So, my hypocrisy, my personal hypocrisy aside, let's talk about being intentional. Let's talk about multitasking. It's funny because I kind of grew up being encouraged to multitask, and I feel like when you're in school it starts, you have to multitask. You know, you're doing your lessons, you're packing up your bag, you're doing a lot of things, and as you get older there's just more and more multitasking because it seems like there's less and less time. And then you throw kids into the mix, and you know, as my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, said, you know, oh, your floor's dirty, it just takes a minute to sweep it up. It's like, it does, but I don't have a minute right now, maybe later. So do you have that where you're just like, I don't even have a minute, like I don't even have it, like look at me today, like look at this. It's just always doing something. And then when I am doing something, not doing it with much like rest, intention, focus, but instead just kind of winging it throughout my whole day, like eating something while I'm loading the dishwasher, you know what I mean? Packing the lunchbox while I'm, you know, doing something else. So it seems like as parents it's a huge struggle to be intentional, you know, and to do things intentionally and to do things one thing at a time. And so how do you handle that? You know, how do you become more intentional? How do you sit there and, you know, have dinner with your kids? I mean, that's one of the biggest struggles I have is I'll make dinner, and while everybody's eating, I'll start cleaning the kitchen because after that I have to put everybody to bed. So should I not do that? And should I just sit there, eat dinner, and now it's like 40 minutes later? And so those are some of the things that I want to work on, like being more intentional. Hi guys, thanks for joining my YouTube live. So, and this doesn't just apply to parents, you know, this is true for everybody. You know, it's like, how can we do what we're doing while we're doing it? How can we focus on one thing, not always two things? Tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear, you know, what are you doing right now? Are you just on Facebook? I mean, on YouTube? Are you just on YouTube, or are you on Facebook too? Are you on YouTube and also at work? Are you watching your kid play a soccer game and you're on YouTube? Or are you really intentional about where you're located, you know? And so those are some of the questions that I have. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about perfume. Do you guys wear perfume? Does anybody here wear a fragrance? What's your fragrance? What the fuck? Very nice. Asaka. What the fuck? Okay. So do you guys wear Du willst Weltkrieg. Okay, super. Titan Telefon. Der muss wohl aus Deutschland sein. Hallo nach Deutschland. Ich spreche Deutsch. So, what fragrance do you guys wear? Do you wear a fragrance? I have not worn any perfume or fragrance in like 20 years. And part of it is because I read articles saying that it kind of messes up your hormones and messes up your body. But at the same time, I ran into a lady today and her perfume smelled so amazing that I had to ask her what it was. And it was Chanel Mademoiselle fragrance. And so I'm really debating if I should put on my birthday, Christmas, whatever, Valentine's Day wish list for my husband to get Chanel Mademoiselle. Are there any other moms in here that have used Chanel Mademoiselle? If you did, give me a like. And also, if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. Part of what I strive to do is to create a forum for parents to talk about low-tech parenting, getting your children off of screens and into the world, getting your children engaged in sports or other things that they're passionate about, and not using the television, the screens as a babysitter. And also, I should say that it's more than that. It's like keeping them off of the pressure of social media. You know, I'm in my 40s, and quite frankly, like, I don't care about a lot of things anymore that I used to. You know, somebody's opinion of me it kind of rolls down my back. But when I was a teenager, if somebody would have said something unkind or, you know, said certain things, it would have really affected me. So, you know, when your children engage with social media, like, what is the upside to that? Like, what benefit could that possibly bring them? You know, think about, I mean, when I was a teenager, if I think about that now, being a teenager in this time, with all the stressors that are on kids, education seems to get stricter and stricter. The children have to learn more and more at earlier an age. Do they get to be kids? You know, and then they have to interact in a social media landscape that's not even made for children. So I think that's tricky. Hi Arsaka, hi Indonesia. Thanks for joining my YouTube live. It's only my second or third day even doing YouTube lives because I finally got to 50 subscribers, and thanks to everybody who made that possible. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. I will be doing lives regularly. My focus is parenting and just parent life in general, making it fun, and trying to think of ways to keep it low tech. Low tech. I mean, technology has its place. I think that, you know, the world is becoming more and more interconnected. There's more and more technology everywhere. But what's the right age for kids to start going on social media sites and having access to technology? I think, I personally think that, I don't know the right age, but it's definitely like late teens, you know, late teens, if that. There's just too much out there that's not really for kids, you know, like, kids should be able to be kids, and schools should do a better job of teaching and not relying on technology. I have toured so many schools in the meantime that make me absolutely furious, because it's easier for the teacher to grade a test that the student took on an iPad, because they don't have to grade the test, because the iPad just spits out the grade. And a lot of schools are even going to online learning platforms where I ask myself, what is the point of having this school set up, you know? And the question is, like, should we go to more of a university style model of education? Um, is traditional school dead? Like, is there value in what is going on right now? I mean, in one of my local Facebook groups, there was a mother that just posted, I don't know if it's gonna let me show you guys, was doing all the writing, just middle schooler wasn't doing any writing on any paper at all. And so was just typing. And when the middle schooler did need to write something on a piece of paper, it looked like a 5-year-old was writing it, because the middle schooler had never really properly learned to write. I mean, forget about cursive. I'm talking about print, you know? I'm talking about print. So, like, think about that. You know, what are we doing? I talked with a music teacher today as well, a music teacher in Europe, who said he has to constantly lower the standards of his teaching all the time, because children are not used to learning at a higher standard anymore. So children kind of, everything gets dumbed down, everybody gets an A. If it's hard and the child gets frustrated, instead of encouraging the child to succeed, the parents come and tell the music teacher to make it less difficult. But it's like, guys, it's music. You have to learn to read musical notation. You have to practice the instrument. You know, there's no shortcut to learning music, you know? And so when I talked with this music teacher, he was so frustrated because he was talking about the attention span the kids have is like non-existent. The drive that the kids have, some of the kids he's encountering, they just come from an environment where they're constantly entertained, everything is made fairly easy, and they're not having to be challenged as much as maybe, you know, as maybe in the past. And I mean, I see this with my own children. They were only able to write print, and the school that they're in now actually forced them to learn cursive in 3 months. And after 3 months, everything was due in cursive. And you would be like, well, wait a minute, they have to learn the actual school stuff, right? And now they also have to learn to write it all in cursive. Isn't that too much for a 7 and a 9-year-old? And it's like, you know what? It's not. They rose to the occasion. Children are capable of way more than a lot of times we give them credit for. You know, I feel like, think about this, okay? Your child, okay, your child can basically learn an entire language free of any accent in the first several years of their life, right? So wherever you live, that child grows up and ends up speaking that language perfectly. And isn't that just amazing? And so, of course, the vocabulary gets built, things, you know, kind of change, but on the whole, like, children are capable of so much, right? And of course they need instruction, and of course they need guidance, but they also need accountability, and they need to be challenged. And so, you know, when this local mom told me that, or I saw in the local mom group that her child can't actually write better than somebody who's 5 years old, even though this child's in middle school, that kind of blew my mind and made me a little sad for the children, you know. And that's just where I think, you know, you have kids that are literally playing video games right when they come home from school, out of interest, out of boredom. And is that really what we want for our kids? I'm not sure, you know. I'm just not sure if that's what we want to be doing. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, I guess, right? It is what it is. What are your thoughts on it? What do you wish your children's childhood could be like? Is it the way you want it to be? Do you like your child's school? Do you like the child's exposure to technology? Do you think that there are enough safeguards in place? I mean, our local library here in the kids section, there are no restricted sites on the internet in the children's section of the library. You know, and I do see children that don't have parents with them. Is that okay with you? You know, when I take my kids to the library, we read books. You know, we go to the library for books, and that's about the long and short of it. But what do? You know, what is important to you? Because again, parenting is such a unique journey, I feel like, and such a series of having to make like difficult decisions, you know.